Commander Alan Pierce stood at the bridge of the USS Defiant, staring at the devastation on the holographic display. The colony on Proxima Centauri B had been reduced to ruins in less than 6 hours. 3,000 people had lived there. Now, there was nothing but destroyed buildings and silence. Commander, we've detected an energy signature matching the previous attacks, Lieutenant Olivia Grant reported. Her fingers moved quickly across the control panel. Whatever did this, it's the same thing that hit the Mars outpost in New Anchorage. Alan's jaw tightened. This was the third human outpost destroyed in as many months. The first attack had been dismissed as a possible meteor strike. The second raised alarms. Now it was clear. Someone or something was targeting humanity. Any survivors? He asked, though he already knew the answer. No, sir. Not one. Alan turned to face the bridge. Crew. Their faces showed the same mix of horror and anger he felt inside. They had all lost friends or family in these attacks. Set course for Earth. The Council needs to know we're at war. The journey back to Earth took 8 days. During that time, Alan reviewed the limited data they had collected. Whatever had attacked the colonies moved fast, struck hard, and disappeared, without leaving much evidence behind. The only consistent finding was a strange radiation pattern, unlike anything in human records. Upon reaching Earth, Alan was immediately taken to the United Earth Defense Council chambers beneath New Geneva. The room was filled with military leaders and government officials, all looking grave. Admiral Catherine Reeves, head of Earth's combined space forces, stood as Alan entered. Commander Pierce, your report has been distributed. What wasn't in? Your report was your personal assessment. What are we facing? Alan took a deep breath. Admiral, in my 20 years of service, I've never seen anything like this. The precision of the attack suggests intelligence. The power displayed indicates technology far beyond our own. And the pattern, he paused, suggests they're testing our defenses, learning our response times. The room fell silent for a moment before General William Hayes spoke up. You're suggesting reconnaissance before a larger invasion? Yes, sir. That's exactly what I'm suggesting. The Council debated for hours. Some argued for a defensive posture, pulling back to fortify Earth and the inner colonies. Others pushed for sending scout ships to locate the threat. In the end, they agreed on a compromise. A defensive perimeter would be established while a small fleet of fast ships would be sent to patrol the outer colonies. Alan was given command of one such ship. The USS Defiant was refitted with the newest weapon systems Earth could provide and assigned to patrol the region near Proxima Centauri. His orders were simple: find the enemy, gather intelligence, and avoid engagement if possible. 3 weeks. Later, the Defiant was in position near the ruins of the colony. The crew worked in shifts, constantly scanning for any sign of the mysterious attackers. Commander, I'm picking up something strange, said Communications Officer Joe Martinez. It's not on any standard frequency. Alan moved to his station. What is it? It seems like a broadcast, but I can't make sense of it. Joe adjusted the controls. Wait, it's changing. It's matching our communication protocols now. The main screen flickered, and an image appeared that made everyone on the bridge freeze. The creature on the screen was unlike anything they had seen before. It resembled a giant insect standing upright with multiple limbs and a hard, shiny exoskeleton. Its head had several eyes arranged in a pattern that reminded Alan of a spider. When it spoke, its mandibles clicked and moved in an unsettling way. Humans, the translation system interpreted. You have been noticed. Alan stepped forward. This is Commander Alan Pierce of the United Earth vessel Defiant. Who are you, and why have you attacked our colonies? The creature made a sound that the translation system couldn't interpret, perhaps laughter. I am Hunt Leader Vexcar of the Vexthor Dominion. Your species has expanded into our hunting grounds. We have studied you, tested you. You will now be harvested or subjugated, as we have done with all lesser species for 10,000 cycles, though may. Bridge crew exchanged glances. Alan kept his expression neutral. We don't recognize your claim to these regions of space. We are peaceful explorers, but we will defend ourselves. The alien's mandibles clicked rapidly. Defense? No species has successfully defended against the Vexthor. Your weapons are primitive. Your ships are slow. Your bodies are soft. You should feel honored. Most species are simply consumed. Those that show some potential are kept as servants or livestock. Before Alan could respond, Lieutenant Grant spoke urgently. Commander, sensors are detecting multiple ships dropping out of some kind of faster-than-light travel. They're surrounding us. On the screen, Vexicar's eyes seem to gleam. Your ship will make an excellent demonstration for your leaders. The fear you feel now is delicious to us. It is what we seek in all our hunts. Alan felt a cold anger replace his initial shock. Lieutenant Grant, battle stations. Joe, send everything we're seeing to Earth. Continuous transmission. Turning back to the screen, Alan addressed the alien. There's something you should know about humans, Vexcar. We've evolved on a world filled with predators. We understand hunting. But we've also learned something your species clearly hasn't. And what is that, soft one? Sometimes the prey learns to hunt back. Alan cut the transmission and turned to his weapons officer. Load the experimental quantum torpedoes. Admiral Reeves said to avoid engagement if possible, but I don't think that's an option anymore. The 5 Vexthor ships were closing in, their design reminiscent of giant insects, all angles and sharp edges. They were larger than the Defiant and, based on the readings, much more heavily armed. Sir, we're outgunned at least 3-1, reported Security Chief Linda Ramirez. Alan nodded. I know, but they don't expect us to fight. They expect us to run or surrender. He looked around at his crew. Let's show these galactic predators that humans aren't easy prey. The Defiant's engines roared to life as it accelerated directly toward the largest enemy vessel. The Vexthor ships, apparently surprised by this tactic, were slow to respond. The first quantum torpedo struck the lead ship before its shields were fully raised, causing a cascade of explosions along its hull. Direct hit, shouted Weapons Officer Greg Nelson. Their shields were calibrated for our standard weapons. The other ships are moving to surround us, Linda warned. Alan gripped the edge of his command chair. Continue transmission to Earth. Everyone else, remember your training. Whatever happens next, we're making history. The first humans to fight back against these predators. As the Vexthor ships opened fire, Alan realized that this was likely a battle the Defiant couldn't win. But it was a battle that would teach these galactic hunters something they had apparently never learned in thousands of years of conquest. Humans knew what it meant to be afraid, and they knew how to make others fear them in return. The battle between the USS Defiant and the Vexthor ships lasted only 20 minutes, but those 20 minutes changed the course of human history. Commander Alan Pierce had managed to destroy 2 enemy vessels before the Defiant's engines were crippled. With their ship dead in space, the crew expected to be boarded and killed. Instead, something unexpected happened. The remaining Vexthor ships suddenly pulled back and disappeared into faster-than-light travel. The crew of the Defiant had no explanation until they received a transmission from Earth 3 hours later. Defiant, this is Admiral Reeves. Your transmission reached us. We deployed the experimental quantum fleet as soon as we saw what you were facing. Help is on the way. Hold tight. 6 weeks later, Dr. Nathan Collins hunched over his desk in the underground research facility beneath the Rocky Mountains. The room around him was filled with biological samples from the Vexthor scout ship they had managed to capture during the follow-up battle. The alien vessel had been towed to Earth for study, along with the bodies of 3 Vexthor warriors. Nathan had not slept more than 4 hours a night since the specimens arrived. His eyes were red, and his hands shook slightly from too much coffee and too little rest. But he couldn't stop now, not when he was so close to understanding their enemy. The door to his lab slid open and Major Heather Dawson walked in. She was the military liaison to the science team, and her presence usually meant one thing. The generals wanted results. Please tell me you have something, she said, skipping the usual pleasantries. The Joint Chiefs are meeting in 3 hours, and they want to know if we've found any weaknesses we can exploit. Nathan ran a hand through his messy hair. I think I do. Their neural structure is fascinating. He pointed to a 3D model rotating on his computer screen. The Vexthor process fear differently than we do. For them, it's not just an emotion, it's almost like a nutrient. Heather leaned closer. What do you mean? Their bodies are designed to absorb and process specific chemicals released by other species when experiencing terror. It's more than just hunting, it's feeding. They literally consume fear. Nathan pulled up another image, this one showing what looked like glands located near the Vexthor's jaw. These organs can detect fear pheromones from 100 meters away. Their entire evolutionary path has optimized them to hunt species that produce these chemicals. So they're addicted to scaring their prey before killing it? Heather asked. Exactly. And here's the thing. They've been the apex predators for so long that they've never needed to develop responses to being hunted themselves. Their physiology shows no developed pathways for processing their own fear response. Heather's eyes widened as she understood. Because they've never had to be afraid. Until now, Nathan said, a small smile forming on his tired face. The data from the battle shows something incredible. When Commander Pierce attacked instead of retreating, the Vexthor ships hesitated. Their neural readings show spikes in brain activity that their systems weren't designed to handle. They experienced confusion, possibly even the beginnings of fear. In another part of the facility, security specialist Eric Lawson led a team working day and night to extract information from the data cores of the captured Vexthor vessel. The technology was alien, but after weeks of effort, they had managed to decode enough to understand the basics of Vexthor society and history. Eric stood before a group of military and government officials, explaining what they had discovered. The room was silent as they absorbed the implications of his findings. The Vexthor control nearly a third of the Milky Way, he explained, pointing to a star map projected on the wall. They've systematically eliminated or subjugated dozens of sentient species over thousands of years. Their society is divided into castes, with the warrior caste at the top. He swiped to a new image, showing what appeared to be a massive gathering of Vexthor ships. This is what concerns us most. This image was time-stamped just after our first battle. It shows a gathering of their entire warrior caste, something that, according to their records, has only happened 3 times in their recorded history. Admiral Reeves spoke up from the back of the room. What does this mean for us? Eric took a deep breath. It means they're treating us differently than other species they've encountered. The normal pattern is to send small hunting parties to test new species, then bring in larger forces to subjugate or harvest them. But we're seeing a full mobilization. They're not just coming to hunt us, they're coming to eliminate what they perceive as a threat. The room erupted in concerned voices until the Admiral raised her hand for silence. How much time do we have? Based on the travel speeds we've calculated from their ships, between 3 and 4 months before their main fleet reaches our solar system. The weeks that followed were a time of frantic activity across Earth and all human colonies. The quantum weapon technology that had proven effective against the Vexthor was rushed into mass production. Every ship capable of carrying weapons was retrofitted for combat. Defense stations were constructed around Earth and key colonies. Dr. Collins and his team worked without rest to develop new weapons based on their understanding of Vexthor biology. They created sonic devices that could disrupt the aliens' sensitive hearing organs and chemical compounds that would make humans undetectable to the Vexthor fear-sensing glands. Meanwhile, humanity prepared for war. Training centers were established to teach soldiers how to fight the alien threat. Evacuation plans were created for civilian populations. Resources were pooled from every nation on Earth. For the first time in centuries, humanity was truly united against a common enemy. The first major test came sooner than expected. A Vexthor advance force attacked Europa Station, the massive base on Jupiter's moon that housed Earth's most advanced research facilities. The station also served as humanity's forward defense post for the outer solar system. Lieutenant Daniel Wright was coordinating the evacuation of civilian researchers when the first Vexthor ship appeared. Unlike the previous encounters, this was no small scouting party. It was a full battle group. 15 ships of varying sizes, all designed for war. They're approaching in standard formation, Communications Officer Samantha Klein reported. her voice remarkably steady given the circumstances. Just like the simulations predicted, Captain Frank Rodriguez nodded grimly. Then let's show them what happens when you become predictable. The defense of Europa Station would become the turning point in humanity's fight against the galactic predators. But as the battle began, no one knew if humanity's preparations would be enough to stop an enemy that had never known defeat. The battle for Europa Station began with an unexpected move from the human defenders. Instead of firing conventional weapons, they launched what appeared to be empty missiles toward the approaching Vexthor ships. The alien vessels made no attempt to avoid these seemingly harmless projectiles. It was their first mistake. When the missiles reached a certain distance, they exploded into clouds of specialized chemicals designed by Dr. Collins's team. The compounds spread quickly, covering the area of space where the Vexthor ships were positioned. Inside the lead Vexthor vessel, Hunt Commander Vextral clicked his mandibles in confusion. Why do they waste resources on non-explosive weapons? He asked his second-in-command. The answer came seconds later when the ship's sensors began to fail. The specialized chemicals had been designed to block the Vexthor's ability to detect fear from their prey. Without this crucial sense, the alien warriors became disoriented, like predators suddenly struck blind. They have disabled our hunt sense, the second-in-command reported, panic evident in his voice, an emotion previously unknown among their kind. Vextral snarled. It does not matter. We will destroy them through superior firepower alone. He ordered the fleet to advance, but as they moved forward, the human defenders unleashed their second surprise. Powerful transmitters on Europa Station began broadcasting sound waves at frequencies specifically calibrated to the Vexthor auditory system. The effect was immediate and devastating. Warriors throughout the fleet dropped to their knees, their sensitive hearing organs overwhelmed by pain. Some smashed their own communication devices, trying to stop the terrible noise. Captain Frank Rodriguez watched from the command center as the Vexthor ships began to move erratically. Phase 1. Successful, he reported to Earth Command. Moving to Phase 2, now the human ships attacked, using the quantum weapons that had proven effective in the first encounter. The Vexthor, disoriented and in pain, were unable to coordinate their defense. 3 alien ships were destroyed in the first pass. Lieutenant Daniel Wright led a squadron of smaller fighters, darting between the larger Vexthor vessels. Remember your training, he told his pilots. Hit their engine sections and communication arrays. Don't give them a chance to regroup. The battle lasted less than 2 hours. When it ended, 11 Vexthor ships had been destroyed. The remaining 4 retreated, jumping to faster-than-light speed and disappearing from the system. For the first time in their long history of conquest, the Vexthor had been forced to run from a battle. The victory at Europa Station changed everything. News spread quickly throughout the human colonies, boosting morale and inspiring hope. More importantly, it provided valuable data on how the Vexthor fought and how they responded when their advantages were taken away. 1 week after the battle, a captured Vexthor warrior was being held in a special containment facility on Mars. The alien had been found injured in the wreckage of one of the destroyed ships. Earth scientists saw this as an unprecedented opportunity to learn more about their enemy. Dr. Sophia Miller, a xenopsychologist, was chosen to attempt communication. She approached the cell where the Vexthor was held behind transparent barriers. The alien was massive, nearly 9 feet tall with a hard exoskeleton that shimmered under the lights. Its multiple limbs ended in sharp natural weapons and its mandibles clicked constantly as it paced the cell. I am Dr. Miller, she said through the translation system. I've come to speak with you. The Vexthor stopped pacing and turned all of its eyes toward her. You should kill me, it said simply. That is what we would do to you. We're not like you, Sophia replied. We want to understand. The conversation that followed revealed more about the Vexthor than weeks of studying their biology. The warrior, who called himself Krivak, explained that his species had evolved on a death world where only the strongest survived. They had turned the entire galaxy into their hunting grounds, and their society was built around the concept that causing fear in other species was their divine right. But you are different, Krivak admitted. You do not show proper fear. You fight back with unexpected methods. Some among our kind are experiencing uncertainty. You mean fear, Sophia suggested. The Vexthor's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation. Impossible. We do not feel fear, we cause it. Everyone can feel fear, Sophia countered. It's just that some have never had a reason to feel it before. The information gathered from Krivak proved invaluable. Earth's military leaders now understood that the psychological impact of the Europa victory went far beyond the tactical advantage. The Vexthor were experiencing something entirely new to their species. Doubt. General Lisa Martinez addressed the United Earth Defense Council 2 days later. The massive underground chamber was packed with representatives from every human colony. The Vexthor expected us to be like every other species they've encountered, she explained. They expected us to cower, to run, to submit. Instead, we stood our ground and fought back. We've created uncertainty in a species that has never known it before. Admiral Catherine Reeves stood next. Our intelligence suggests they're regrouping for a larger assault. They've called in ships from across their territory. We estimate they'll reach our solar system in less than 3 months with a force 10 times larger than what we faced at Europa. The room filled with concerned murmurs until the Admiral raised her hand for silence. But we now have something they don't: experience with losing. Humans have faced extinction-level threats throughout our history. We've survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and our own self-destructive tendencies. Setbacks and failures are part of our collective experience. They've made us stronger, more adaptable. She projected a map of nearby star systems. We can't just defend Earth and wait for them to come. We need to take the fight to them. The Council's decision was unprecedented. Humanity would launch an offensive campaign beyond the solar system. Operation Huntsman would target Vexthor supply lines and communication hubs, using guerrilla tactics rather than direct confrontation. Commander Paul Jackson was selected to lead the first strike team. As he prepared his ship for departure, he knew they were about to change the nature of the war. Humans would no longer be prey trying to survive. They would become hunters themselves. The predators were about to learn what it truly meant to be afraid. Commander Paul Jackson stood in the shadow of his ship, the USS Phantom, looking at the 20 men and women who made up his strike team. They were the best Earth had to offer: soldiers, engineers, and scientists who had volunteered for what might be a one-way mission. You all know what we're facing, Paul said, his voice firm. The Vexthor have never been challenged before. They don't understand stealth tactics or guerrilla warfare. We're going to teach them. The Phantom was unlike any ship humanity had built before. Using technology reverse-engineered from captured Vexthor vessels, it could mask its energy signature and appear invisible to most scanning systems. It was small, fast, and equipped with weapons designed specifically to target Vexthor weaknesses. Remember, Paul told his team as they prepared to board, we're not just fighting to win, we're fighting to be remembered. Everything we do from this point forward will shape how these aliens see humans for generations to come. The mission began with a dangerous journey through Vexthor-controlled space. The Phantom slipped past enemy patrols, its stealth systems functioning perfectly. Their first target was a communication relay station orbiting a gas giant in the Tau Ceti system. The station coordinated Vexthor fleet movements across 3 sectors of space. Approach vector locked in, reported Lieutenant Susan Wells, the ship's pilot. We'll be in range in 5 minutes. Paul studied the holographic display showing the alien station. It was massive, nearly 2 miles across, with a design that reminded him of a spider's web. Vexthor ships docked at various points along its outer ring. Any sign they've detected us, he asked. None, sir, replied Security Officer Ryan Campbell. Their scanners are sweeping right past us. The plan was simple but risky. A small team would board the station, plant specialized explosive devices at key points, and escape before detonation. The explosives contained the same chemicals used at Europa Station. which would disable the Vex Thor's fear-sensing organs and cause confusion among the station's crew. Paul led the boarding party himself. They moved through the alien corridors, their specialized suits protecting them from detection. The interior of the station was hot and humid, with strange organic components integrated into the mechanical structure. "It's like they've grown the station rather than built it," whispered engineer Maria Foster as she placed the first explosive charge. "These structures look almost like living tissue." They had placed 3 of the 5 charges when a patrol of Vex Thor warriors turned a corner ahead of them. For a moment, both groups froze in surprise. Then the aliens raised their weapons. Paul reacted first, throwing a sound grenade that his team had been prepared for with specialized ear protection. The Vex Thor warriors dropped to the ground, their sensitive hearing overwhelmed by the painful frequencies. "Move," Paul ordered. "Finish placing the charges and get back to the ship." They completed their mission with the station now on high alert. Alarms blared as they fought their way back to the docking bay where they had left their shuttle. 2 team members were injured, but everyone made it back to the Phantom. As they pulled away from the station, Paul gave the order to detonate the charges. The explosion wasn't designed to destroy the station completely. Instead, it targeted the communication systems and released clouds of the specialized chemicals throughout the structure. "Mission accomplished," Paul reported as they jumped to faster-than-light speed. The Vex Thor just lost control of fleet movements across 3 sectors. This was only the beginning. Over the next 2 months, human strike teams hit dozens of Vex Thor targets throughout nearby star systems. Each attack followed the same pattern: appear without warning, cause targeted damage, and vanish before the Vex Thor could respond. The psychological impact on the alien species was devastating. For millennia, they had been the ones who hunted from the shadows. Now they were experiencing what it felt like to be stalked by an unseen enemy. Meanwhile, diplomatic efforts were underway to contact other species that had been subjugated by the Vex Thor. Many had been conquered for generations and lived as little more than livestock for the predatory race. The promise of freedom inspired rebellions across multiple star systems, forcing the Vex Thor to divide their attention. On a small moon orbiting a red dwarf star, Paul's team made contact with representatives from 5 different alien species. The meeting took place in an underground cavern, away from Vex Thor patrols. "For too long we have lived in fear," said a tall, slender being whose translucent skin pulsed with light as it spoke. "Your people are the first to fight back successfully against our oppressors." "We don't seek to replace the Vex Thor as rulers," Paul explained. "We want a galaxy where each species can live without fear of being hunted." A coalition was formed that day. The subjugated species couldn't offer much in terms of military support. The Vex Thor had long ago stripped them of most technology, but they provided invaluable intelligence about Vex Thor movements and bases. Back on Earth, the Defense Council received regular updates on Operation Huntsman's progress. The war was far from over, but the balance had shifted. The Vex Thor's planned invasion of the solar system had been delayed as they struggled to deal with attacks across their territory and uprisings among their subject races. Admiral Catherine Reeves reviewed the latest reports with a mixture of pride and concern. "We're winning battles," she told General Martinez, "but the cost is high. Nearly 30% of the strike teams had been lost, and many of Earth's outer colonies remained vulnerable. More concerning were the ethical questions beginning to arise. Some military leaders were pushing for more aggressive attacks, including targeting Vex Thor homeworlds where civilians lived. "We started this fighting for survival," General Martinez said quietly. "But now there's talk of complete eradication of the Vex Thor species." Admiral Reeves frowned. "That would make us no better than them. We need to remember what we're fighting for, not just to survive, but to show there's a better way to exist in this galaxy." The final phase of Operation Huntsman targeted the most ambitious goal yet, capturing a Vex Thor fleet commander. Human intelligence suggested that the alien hierarchy was rigid, with lower castes unable to function effectively without direction from above. Paul Jackson's team was assigned this critical mission. As the Phantom approached the location where the fleet commander's ship was expected to be, Paul addressed his crew one last time. What we do today could determine whether this war ends in months or continues for years. Capture, not kill. Remember that. The future of two species, and perhaps the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. The capture of Fleet Commander Vexmac changed everything. Paul Jackson's team had succeeded beyond all expectations, infiltrating the alien command ship and extracting its leader with minimal casualties. The mission had required perfect timing, flawless execution, and a bit of luck, all of which they had. Vexmac was brought to Earth under heavy security. Unlike the warrior they had captured earlier, this was a member of the Vexthor ruling caste. Tall, with iridescent armor-like skin and eyes that seemed to contain galaxies, Vexmac carried himself with a dignity that surprised his human captors. "Wish to speak with your leaders?" the alien commander requested after 3 days of silence. "There are things they must understand." The meeting took place in a secure facility beneath the Atlantic Ocean. Admiral Catherine Reeves led the human delegation, with General Martinez, Dr. Miller, and representatives from the Defense Council also present. Commander Paul Jackson stood guard near the door, watching the alien who had nearly destroyed 3 human strike teams. "You fight differently than any species we have encountered," Vexmac began, his voice translated by the systems Dr. Miller had developed. "You do not surrender when faced with superior force. You do not run when defeat seems certain. Instead, you adapt and strike back in unexpected ways." Admiral Reeves nodded. "That's what humans do. We survive." "Yes, survival." The alien's mandibles clicked softly. "My people have forgotten what it means to fight for survival. For 10,000 years we have been the unchallenged predators of the galaxy. We hunt because it is our nature, not because we must." What followed was a revelation that changed how humanity viewed the conflict. Vexmac explained that the Vexthor social structure was fracturing. The younger generations, having witnessed defeats at human hands, were questioning the religious doctrines that had driven their conquest. Some were even advocating for communication rather than consumption. "My capture will accelerate this process," Vexmac said. "There are those among my kind who will see it as a sign that the old ways have failed." "Are you suggesting peace is possible?" General Martinez asked, clearly skeptical. The alien commander's eyes fixed on her. "Peace as you understand it? No, but coexistence might be. For the first time in our history, we face a species that can make us feel what we have made. Others feel. This changes perspective." 5 years passed. The war continued, but its nature evolved. Human strike teams became more effective as they gained experience fighting the Vexthor. Earth's scientists developed increasingly sophisticated weapons targeting alien weaknesses. The coalition of formerly subjugated species grew, providing crucial intelligence and support. Then, unexpectedly, the Vexthor High Command requested a formal negotiation, something unprecedented in their expansionist history. Their emissaries arrived at the neutral meeting ground on Ganymede, Jupiter's largest moon. They appeared noticeably less imposing than the warriors humanity had first encountered 5 years earlier. Admiral Catherine Reeves, now bearing scars from multiple engagements, led the human delegation. "We didn't start this war," she reminded her team, "but we will dictate how it ends." The terms discussed over the next 7 days were unprecedented. The Vexthor would withdraw from human space entirely. They would release all conquered species from their dominion and allow them to reclaim their home worlds. In exchange, humanity would cease its campaign of liberation and allow the Vexthor to retain sovereignty over their core systems. Not everyone on the human side supported these terms. Some military leaders argued that with another 5 years of war, they could potentially eliminate the Vexthor threat completely. Others pointed out the ethical problems with such an approach and the tremendous cost in human lives it would require. In the end, Admiral Reeves made the final decision. "We went to war to survive, not to become conquerors ourselves. We will accept these terms." What the Vexthor couldn't articulate, but human xenopsychologists like Dr. Miller understood perfectly, was that the predatory species had fundamentally changed. After experiencing defeat, fear, and uncertainty for the first time, their society had fractured. Younger Vexthor questioned the religious doctrines that had driven their conquest, while elder castes struggled to maintain control. The peace treaty was signed on what humans called Victory Day, marking 5 years and 3 months since the first attack on Proxima Centauri b. The ceremony was broadcast across Earth and all human colonies. Admiral Reeves and the new Vexthor High Commander, a reformist named Vexlar, signed the document together. Today marks a new chapter in galactic history, Admiral Reeves said afterward. Not just for humans or Vexthor, but for all sentient species who wish to live without fear. In the decades that followed, humanity emerged as a protective force in the galaxy. Former Vexthor subject species, many with technologies and capabilities suppressed for generations, became allies in a new interstellar community. Earth's colonies expanded once more, but with a new purpose. Not just exploration, but guardianship. Paul Jackson, now an admiral himself, often visited schools on Earth and the colonies to tell children about the war. He never glorified the violence or demonized the enemy. Instead, he emphasized how the conflict had changed both species. The Vexthor taught us that strength without compassion leads to stagnation, he would explain. And we taught them that adaptation is stronger than domination. The final irony wasn't lost on historians. The species that had evolved on what many considered the galaxy's most dangerous planet, Earth, with its unpredictable weather, tectonic activity, and diverse predators, had proven that adaptation and cooperation were ultimately more powerful than strength and aggression. On the 10th anniversary of the peace treaty, a monument was unveiled in Geneva. It depicted a human and a Vexthor standing side by side, looking toward the stars. The inscription at the base read, "They came as predators. They left as equals. May we never forget what fear can teach us." Ambassador Olivia Grant, once a lieutenant, on the USS Defiant during that first fateful encounter, spoke at the ceremony. Her words would be remembered for generations. The Vexthor taught the galaxy to fear. Humans taught it to hope. Together we are learning something even more important, how to evolve beyond our natures toward something better. As night fell and the stars appeared above the monument, humans and aliens alike looked upward. The galaxy was still vast and largely unknown, but for the first time in millennia, it was not ruled by predators. Instead, it had become a place where different species could look at each other without fear, or at least, with the understanding that fear need not lead to destruction. It could also lead to change.